Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox, and today I want to talk to you about 3 books you should seriously consider adding to your prepper library, most especially if you see what I see, and you can see this entire system changing to a point like it has been many times throughout man's history, a time, a WROL, right? Without rule of law, where there's roving bands of bad guys and guys you don't know if they're good or bad. Maybe they're both, depending on how you deal with it. The first book I've already reviewed. They're all by a man named John Mosby, called Forging the Hero. Who does more is worth more. A tribal strategy for building resilient communities and surviving the decline of empire. I've already reviewed it. It's an excellent book. I'll put the link to it down below. Let's talk about the next 2, because after I read that book of John's, I said, you know what? I got to get more of this guy's stuff. I like where his head is at. And so I got 2 books. I got them together. Volume 1, The Reluctant Partisan, Volume 1, The Guerrilla. And then the subtitle is A Comprehensive Training and Evaluation Program for Tribal Community and Family Security Preparedness. And then the second one is called the Reluctant Partisan, Volume 2, The Underground, An Unconventional Approach to Surviving the Collapse of Society. Let's talk about these books and why I think you need them. First of all, who's this Yahoo author, right? People think that way on the internet. People are so skeptical on the internet. I'm telling you, this guy right here, John Mosby, is a former Special Forces guy who has been there and done that. And the reason I know is because it just reeks through his books. He knows things that people other than us who've served in Special Forces just don't know, right? He has. He's the real deal. There are people who talk about him in other places who know him and that kind of thing. And so he's a real deal. So he's not writing from a perspective of, well, I've done this large body of research, so let me tell you how it really is. No, his large body of research, which was, yes, academic at first and then applied by going to the dangerous places and doing the dangerous things with other dangerous people, he has real life experience in spades and multiples. And it just comes through his books. The first one, the Guerrilla, Volume 1, The Guerrilla, goes into security. Let's call it that. Tactics. It goes into how to properly use your weapon, and you think you know how. Do you think you know how to use your handgun, rifle, whatever, better than a Special Forces guy? Probably not. For 99% of you, the answer is, oh, heck no. He gives you tips and things that he's gleaned and taught. Because, see, that's the other thing. Special Forces are primarily instructors. We go places and instruct people. Now, I know the movies and, you know, what people like to think is it's all about kicking down doors and shooting bad guys in the face. But really, it's all about going and training other people to be combat multipliers, right? And so he knows what he's talking about here. And he talks about how to properly employ weapons. He talks about tactics. Tactics, something that I'm not talking about your square range tactics. You finish shooting, look to your left, look to your right. No, that's square range stuff, man. You got to turn around in the soul position. Oh no, man, I'm talking tactics, right? Real tactics that you just don't read about anywhere else. So he talks about that. He talks about guerrilla theory. And then something, you know, how to move, how to search prisoners, all that stuff. And one of the things that I think is interesting and brave, dare I say, of the author is he puts actual POIs, programs of instruction, because he's an instructor too. Still, as a civilian now, he goes around, if you can get him, and teaches classes on these things. And he puts some of his POIs in here, his programs of instruction, task, conditions, standards. Here's what you need to do. That's pretty bold, because some people would fear other people copying it. But here's something he knows and I know, and people who have been around for a while know. Sure, you could take this POI, some of this POI, and give it to somebody who doesn't really know what they're talking about. And it's no comparison to a guy who actually wrote the POI, lived the POI, has taught it, on 5 continents, whatever. I made that part up, but taught it all over the world to different people. The instructor is really what's important, not just the POI. But it'll help you get started. It'll help you think of things like, wow, we have to think about that. And so the Reluctant Partisan, the Guerrilla, I don't know where you can get, and I've read several other manuals / textbooks about this big. For those of you who own them, I don't want to diss anybody else, who've been written by former police officers and supposedly former special operations guys who probably were. They're not as good. I'm not getting paid for these books, okay? This is not a paid endorsement here. I'm just telling you my experience and I relate to this book. Good book. And then the next one, oh my gosh, Volume 2, The Underground. There's stuff in here, again, you can't find anywhere else. We used to send our NCOs to a school. We used to call it O&I, Operations and Intelligence. I think the course is actually called now the Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant Course or something like that. It's a long course. It's a couple months long that teaches all manner of tactical intelligence. Can I just leave it there? Much of it is classified. There's nothing classified in this book, but there's stuff in this book that, again, I'm starting to sound like a broken record. You're not going to find anywhere else. There's a lot of interest. There's some interest on the internet on how to be a gray man. I think I've watched all the videos that are on YouTube on how to be a gray man. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. Here, when he talks about how to be a gray man, he knows what he's talking about because he's done these things before and he's taught these things before. When you talk about how do you conduct surveillance, how do you conduct counter surveillance, how do you know if you're being followed, what do you do to prevent being followed? There's stuff in here on, we used to call it Carver Matrix. How do you do a target assessment? You look at a target, and you can look at your own self as a target. See, you can look at your own compound or house in your neighborhood or apartment and put it through what we call a Carver Matrix, which is how do we take this thing down as a target? You can either look at a target or you can look at your own self from the eyes of a foe who would be coming against you, and it helps identify a lot of key points that you might not have otherwise seen. I just think this is an excellent book. And then once again, there's all kinds of tips of the trade, learned over years and years of special operations experience. There's POIs again in this one, for other things to do with shooting, more advanced shooting, tactical things. And of course, he talks about convoys and operating in and out of a vehicle and just so much stuff that you can't get anywhere else, all in one book. Now, I don't know, if I did my due diligence, I probably would have called Warhammer 6 Press and looked this up. I don't know if they have a package deal or not on these, but I will put a link to where you can get these down below. Now, here's the deal. I'm Pastor Joe Fox, and every now and then people are around me and they drop an F-bomb or something like that, and they're like, oh, excuse me, sorry. I'm like, I was in the military for over 20 years. I speak soldier. John speaks soldier. So if you're offended by bad words, then you're going to be offended. But he speaks real, right? He doesn't mince his words. He's not trying to, he's talking, his written prose, if you will, is written probably how he talks, or at least talked at that time, right? It's real. It's in your face because the subject matter he's discussing is real and in your face. And, there's just no sense molly-coddling people when you're talking about things like that. And so, yeah, these are really good books. If you are at all interested in post-apocalyptic tactics, techniques, and procedures to protect you and yours, I really recommend these 2 books. And again, I'll put a link. I've got to go find it, but I'll put a link down below to where you can order these. Now, when I talked about reviewed Forging the Hero, because I got this book first. Then I liked it so much I got these. When I talked about this the first time, some people came back and said, that's really expensive. That's too expensive. Yeah, they're expensive. Have you priced textbooks in college lately? Because see, I have 3 children, they're adults now, who graduated college in the last, I don't know, 10 years. Textbooks are expensive. These are textbooks from a university that you won't be able to go to, most of you, but that I've been through and that John's been through, and he is providing material that you just can't get anywhere else. It's worth the money. I've spent over $100 on some books, and these books are not that. And again, I didn't look it up to see what they are, but they are, you know, these are not $6 books. But this isn't $6 worth of information. You'll get $6 worth of information in the first 2 pages. So, yeah, I recommend you get them. Now, here's the deal. I'm telling y'all on Patreon first. I have this ability. I have a strange secret ability. When I put this on YouTube, what's probably going to happen is they're going to sell out. Because lots of people go when I talk about things that I like. I mean, I'm just being real. I get it from people of things that I review all the time. And so I'm probably going to release this video on YouTube. What's today? Today's Monday. Probably Friday or next Monday. So you've got till at least Friday if you want to order these before I tell YouTube, and then the rush is on, right? And people are going to get them. I can't tell you enough. I highly recommend them. No, they don't have sexy covers with color pictures on them because you don't need that, right? These are textbooks. These are manuals for information that's real, that's battle tested, written by a man who's been there and done that and probably has lots of t-shirts. You can't get it anywhere else. And unfortunately, I think you are going to need this information for what's coming. I just watched a video recently where somebody was reviewing my book, Step 1 Survival, and he said, you know, I get the feeling that Pastor Joe is pulling back and, you know, because he's ramping up his preps. Yeah, he's exactly right. That's a good feeling. Because something's coming. Something wicked this way comes. I recommend y'all get ready for it. And one way you can get ready for it is to train your mind. So, there you go. That's my review of John Mosby's books. I'll show them to you one more time, and then we'll close this out. Forging the Hero. First one I got. Excellent. The Reluctant Partisan, Volume 1, The Guerrilla. The Reluctant Partisan, Volume 2, The Underground. I am eagerly anticipating The Reluctant Partisan, Volume 3, The Auxiliary. Yeah, hold on. I got a page folded down here. Let's see. All right, so I told you, I guess I am going because I'm me. I told you that I treat them like textbooks because they are textbooks, so I highlight them. And just let me give you a few little excerpts here. Best defense is a good offense. We all know that, right? But you know how I say you don't defend your home from your mailbox? Well, this is what he said. The moving, aggressively patrolling unit is exponentially more effective in a fight than a non-aggressive group of the same size stuck hiding in a static position with no idea of what is headed their way. Absolutely right. So you've got to get out there and find out, right? Which is why I did the End Times Defensive Patrolling course. Here's another thing I underlined, highlighted. The sooner you know about a large hostile force in your neighborhood, the better your chances are of stopping them or at least dissuading them from continuing to move towards your home. And then on training, quality of training and motivation, software is far more important than the quantity of men or the quantity or quality of equipment, which is hardware. And you've heard me say things like that before too. Boy, we say similar things in a slightly different manner. I wonder why. Similar backgrounds. Hey, you guys need these books. You really do. Save your pennies, go get them, and I'll see you out there.